Have you ever tore your place apart looking for something you swore you put in a safe spot? I've had that happen with some of my most important books, and it is really frustrating. Maybe it's your keys, a USB drive, or the notebook that you just had in your hands, and you're certain it's nearby, but it's like it vanished into thin air. Here they are. If it happens to you, it's not that you're losing your mind. It's often just that you're using a memory system that was never trained to track objects in modern life, even objects as big and as obvious as books. Now, if you know my work over the past 15 years as an international leading memory expert, you might be surprised that I, Dr. Anthony Metivier, sometimes still lose things. And the reality is that the Magnetic Memory Method project is about better memory. I've never found perfect memory, and it is the case that I do sometimes misplace things. However, it's been much, much less since I started using the tips that you're getting today. And what I also do much less with, thanks to the simple activities you're about to discover, is waste my time in blind panic, tearing through drawers and flipping pillows like I'm some kind of cartoon character in a rage. And that's because there's a better way, a trained way. And in this video, I'm going to show you 5 proven memory-based techniques that will help you recover lost items. In some cases, even if it's been weeks or months since you last saw them. And if you want a printable cheat sheet that guides you through these steps anytime you misplace something, I've got one for you for free, and I'll tell you how to get it shortly. Plus, I've got a bonus 6th tip for you at the end of this video, and it's really going to be the best thing for you to bring it all together. So, it's science-backed, and you're going to love it. Okay, so the first step for you is to do a kind of game of mental time travel. So, your first instinct when you lose something, right, is to start searching. But that's the wrong move. Searching before you try to remember where you may have put it is how you wind up wasting minutes and hours and sometimes days of time. So instead of immediately hunting after the missing item, do this instead. Sit, breathe, and close your eyes and ask yourself very calmly in just simple language that's not judgmental, not in a hurry, not in a rush, not panicked. What was I doing the moment before I last had the missing item? And as you're doing this, don't force it. Don't dig into your memory. Just watch what your memory brings you. The more you relax and let the memory unfold like a scene from a movie that you've already seen, you're going to allow yourself to tap into what's called episodic memory. And this may take a little bit of practice over a few times, but when you do this right, it works a lot of the time, and it works shockingly well. Now, if you find that you're not very patient with this, start by just running the alphabet. It might sound a little bit silly, but as you ask yourself this simple question, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. I don't have to sing the whole alphabet for you unless you forgot it. I think I can still do it backwards. O, Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S, R, Q, P, O, N, M, L, K, J, I, H, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. I don't think I made a mistake there. Maybe I did. But in any case, just run the alphabet. It'll give you a little bit of a pause. It's a pattern interrupt, and it can help you with this mental time travel. And often enough, you'll go, aha, that's where I was. That's probably the best place to start searching first. Now, the second tip is to ask more questions. But first, if you're serious about mastering your memory, not just for finding things, but for remembering names, which is kind of like finding things in your mind, for remembering vocabulary if you're a language learner, or entire phrases, if you're looking to memorize speeches and even abstract concepts, make sure to hit that thumbs up and get subscribed if you're new here, and enable notifications so that these videos can help you improve your mind, your clarity, and your speed, so that you have something close to total recall in this life. Again, I can't promise perfect, but I have seen my own memory and the memories of thousands of other people just rise. And the more we rise together, the more other people can rise as well. So if you still wind up blank and you've done the initial search, now's a great time to help your mind rebuild the memory, but you're going to do it piece by piece. And you're going to tackle it with a different set of questions. What was I wearing, for example? And this is if it's, in the past, but even if it was just 5 minutes ago, you can ask what you were wearing and try to rebuild an image of yourself in the location. And now by focusing on yourself, what you were wearing, you're going to tap into things that relate to what's called context-dependent memory and state-dependent memory. And you can ask, what was I thinking about when I last used the item? Was this part of a routine? Have I ever lost the item in this way before? And these aren't just curiosity prompts. They are triggering context, and scientists call it context reactivation. So your brain is missing a puzzle piece, and the more you surround it with pieces that are related, you're going to be better able to reconstruct what happened. This happened to me one time. I lost a book which was On the Shadows of the Ideas by Giordano Bruno, and it was a very beautiful edition translated by John Michael Greer, and I had to ask all of these questions. And what ended up happening is I realized that I put it on a certain part of my desk, and by pushing something around, I knocked it off the desk and it went behind the desk. But I was able to figure that out almost like Sherlock Holmes just by asking these questions. So it pulls the larger memories forward, but without forcing it, just by asking these contextual questions. The next tip is going to activate memory in your body. These are physical cues. And so far we've been using logic, but we also want to use our lived experience, our physical, kinesthetic experience. And so you go back to the room where the item is in, but not to tear it apart, just to be there, just to re-sync with your past self. And it can be that that's not the room where the item is, but that's where you remember it. And you stand there and you start to touch the objects around you in the room. Tap the table, brush the sofa lightly, get into motion. Now, why would you do this? Well, because motion is going to help reactivate state-dependent memory. So asking these questions helps build context-dependent memory, and touching various objects, even reaching out and touching the walls, gives you more state-dependent memory, because part of your brain is going to still have somewhere in there a memory of the state you were in when you're in the space. So when you return to the space and trigger it, you're going to possibly get that memory back of where the item may be. Now, if this fails, change your state and your context completely. Go out for a walk, take a hot shower, go eat something. This is counterintuitive, but it works. Many of the magnetic memory method students have told me when I gave them this advice, go take a hot shower, go complete a random errand, take a nap, etc., that suddenly the location popped into their minds. So those are some powerful strategies for you. And here's another. This is one that I love when everything else doesn't work. Build a search checklist. So now, if you still can't find the item, the real treasure hunt begins. But you're going to do it in a way that is super strategic. Instead of randomly searching around and then forgetting if you've searched a location or not, you're going to do it with precision. And this precision is very simple. You just get a piece of paper and you make a list of where you looked. And it can be just as simple as a small index card. And you just write down where you've looked and what you've already ruled out. Why? Well, because the brain loops itself into checking the same place 5 times, 6 times, even when you already know the item isn't there. I once lost a screwdriver during a move, and it turned out that, it was hidden under a box, hidden in a shadow. It was in a literal blind spot. And one checklist like this would have saved me so much frustration looking for the screwdriver. I needed the screwdriver as part of completing the move, right? But I kept looking in the same places over and over and over again. If I had just written down a simple checklist on an index card, takes a couple of seconds, I would have known that I looked in particular places, that it wasn't there, then I could move on, and I would start to think outside the box and think, hey, maybe it's under a box, or it's hidden in the shadow behind a box. Very, very powerful. And in a way, writing on a card like this is another way of changing your state dependence and your context, because you're taking it out of your mind and you're putting it into your muscles, and also using a bit of logic and just being absorbed in the writing and the alphabet. That in itself can trigger your recall of the location. All right, here's the next step, and it's basically to future-proof your stuff. So this is kind of easy, but once you find your item, and even if you don't find it, start to practice setting a default system so you don't lose things over and over and over again. So how do you do that? Choose a spot and always use that spot for the item. Now, this isn't about being perfect. It's about building habitual memory traces. And that's what trained memory is all about. So my keys, they're always in the same spot. My sunglasses, always in the same spot. Everything that I need regularly, as much as humanly possible, always in the same spot. Is it sexy? No. But it combats why we forget. And it's not your fault that you forget. You could be the best memory expert in the world and you will still forget. So let's talk a little bit about that. Zoom out so we have better understanding, because understanding is a way of helping ourselves improve. So the first thing to understand is you're overloaded, and that's part of why we forget. Our brains are flooded with advertisements all day, every time we look on the internet. Notifications all day pinging in our pockets. We've got clutter in our surroundings, and we have endless possessions that we're collecting, both physical and digital. So our minds are juggling more memories and meta memories than ever before. We have to have memories about where our other memories live on old hard drives. And then we have all these passwords, and we have photos that we think we backed up and we can't find them, etc. So memory feels like it's declining, but it really isn't. It's actually being more exercised than ever. What is declining in our modern world is structure. And that's why I say, put things in the same place as much as humanly possible. And structure is what I teach. So I've got one more powerful tip for you. But if you're ready to start building that structure, to start training your memory like a system, not a guessing game, I have for you this very, very special object recall cheat sheet, which you can get at magneticmemorymethod.com ORCS for object recall cheat sheet, or you can use the link in the description. This is going to walk you through everything you've just learned with reminders you can actually use the next time something disappears. So, I mean, this is a little bit of a chicken and the egg thing, but you print it out and then you go and look where you printed it out and then you use it. Or you can always remember Anthony and Magnetic Memory Method and search it up and you'll find me. And yeah, I admit there's a little bit of a chicken and the egg thing there, but that's another call for me to remind you to keep a memory journal. Because if you get a journal that you invest in just for tracking your memory, you get one of these ones that has a handy little folder in the back, and that's where you can put all the worksheets from me that you print out, all the little index cards and notes, store them, and decorate it, if you like, with the big word memory on it, like many of my students have done, and you'll then have a better chance of finding your way back to these resources. Do it by hand, write by hand, and you're going to find your memory gets boosted. And you know, picking a very, very fixed place for where you keep your memory journal. My memory journal is always in the same place to follow this principle. Haven't lost it once. And it is glorious and beautiful because I know where to find my own resources if I need them. All right, here's my final tip for you for today. If you aren't able to, or you don't want to put things in the same place over and over and over again, before that I took that wisdom seriously and started to practice it, what I would do is say keys on the bookshelf, or wallet on the dresser, or USB in the top drawer. And as I did that, I would make a fist around it first. I would imagine something like an explosion going off where the key goes on the bookshelf, and then place it there, and again hear this giant explosion, and just imagine that I could see in my mind flames and, you know, Chuck Norris movie kind of stuff, and it really worked. It feels silly, but it activates more regions of your brain, especially when you speak it out loud. You pair it with a physical movement, and you get verbal, you get auditory, you get kinesthetic, you get your spatial reinforcement all involved, and you're just going to think back later, where was it? And this tiny little habit is going to make a massive difference, because now you have additional hooks. You can think back to, well, what was I doing when I was in the location, when I had the key? All right, I was thinking about Chuck Norris and Missing in Action Part 2 and grenades going off by the bookcase. And, just to take it to the next level, if you put a key on your bookcase, have that explosion destroy in your imagination, so that you now imagine that that bookshelf has been torn apart by this grenade or whatever it is, right? And that's going to help you have additional hooks so you can think back to where that item was and have a greater success rate of actually finding it. So thank you so much for watching. And as I always like to say, until we have a chance to speak again, keep yourself magnetic. And if you're with me on YouTube and you want to watch another video that'll help you find information inside of books, go ahead and watch my video on how to use the memory palace technique for studying next. If you don't know what a memory palace is, you're in for a real treat.